1344 and 2022 CPR 01344. Oh, this is the same.
Click on got it.
Actually, Judge, I asked Adriana, and Vernon Kennedy ends in a 5.
Okay, so let me read it from the applications. Let's start again. This is 2022 CPR 01345 and 2022 CPR 01344. In the matter of the estate of Juanita Warren Kennedy and Vernon Kennedy, respectively. There's an heirship determination only on both cases. Please announce.
Susan Forbes, on behalf of the applicant, Mr. James Kennedy, who is here present, Your Honor, and ready to proceed.
Law Office of Albert Nabhan, court-appointed attorney ad litem. We are ready, Judge.
Okay, gentlemen, do me a favor and raise your right hands. Do each of you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give in this case is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God.
I do.
Yes,
I
sir.
do.
Okay, I saw a third hand. Are you going to have 3 witnesses, Ms. Forbes?
I will have my applicant and the witnesses, both of them. Those are
Oh,
three.
no, I saw another hand there in the
Oh,
back.
you did? Oh, well, I didn't see another hand.
I think it
so-
was their mother.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay,
Oh.
she wants to testify.
I-
my brother had to swear, I'm gonna swear.
Go ahead and call your applicant, Ms. Forbes.
What a way to end the day.
Yeah.
Mr. James Robert Kennedy is who I call.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Kennedy, good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
How are you related to Vernon Kennedy?
He's my father.
And we are here today as well in the estate of Juanita Warren Kennedy. How were you related to Juanita Warren Kennedy?
She's my mother.
Your parents, Vernon and Juanita, is it okay with you if I refer to them like that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Were Vernon and how long were Vernon and Juanita married?
Something like 62 years.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. So how many children did they have?
3.
And are you here today to obtain an order from the court declaring who the proper and legal heirs are of Vernon and Juanita Kennedy?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, Mr. Kennedy, did your father, Vernon Kennedy, die on January 2nd, 2014?
Yes, ma'am.
Did he die here in El Paso County, Texas?
Yes, ma'am.
And was he 85 years old at that time? When
Yes,
he
ma'am.
died? Okay. And to your knowledge, sir, did your father die without having executed a valid will?
We could not find one, ma'am.
And so you're representing to Judge Gamboa that you actually looked for one and were unable to
Yes.
find. And I ask you the same questions about Juanita. Did you look for a will for Juanita?
Yes, we did. And there was none.
There was no will. Did you ever hear either Vernon or Juanita speak about having executed wills?
No, ma'am, but they always talked about something they should do because this happened to them with their parents. But for some reason, they never did.
Okay. And you're comfortable in representing to the judge that you looked for but were unable to find a will for either one of your parents, either Vernon or Juanita?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, I want to ask you about Juanita. Did she die on June 26, 2017?
Yes, ma'am.
And did she die here in El Paso County, Texas?
Yes, ma'am.
And was she 89 years old at the time of her death?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, how many times do you think, or do you know how many times Vernon Kennedy was married?
Just the one time.
Did you ever at any time hear him speak of any other marriages or relationships?
No, ma'am.
Was he married at a very young age?
He would have been about 25. He was
And-
married in 1951.
How about Juanita?
The same. She was Oh, she was about 9 months older than him.
Oh, okay. So are you comfortable in making the representation that they were each married only one time and that
Yes,
was
ma'am.
to each other? Did you ever hear Vernon speak about having any children other than the 3 children that you've mentioned?
No, ma'am.
Can you name those children, Mr. Vernon Kennedy's children?
The oldest was Mary Catherine Kennedy. Now,
Tipton.
what's her last name?
That's okay.
And
She's
then
with us right now.
Janet Leah Kennedy, now Janet Waldman, and myself. I was the youngest.
Okay. And as far as Juanita goes, did you ever hear Juanita speak about any other children that she might have had,
No, ma'am.
other than the 3 that you've just mentioned?
Just the 3 that I mentioned.
And as far as you know, Mr. Kennedy, was there ever any discussion about another child or an individual who was claiming to be a child of the marriage of Juanita and Vernon?
No, ma'am. Never heard of that.
Did you ever see any indication in your parents' home that would have given you pause, made you wonder whether there was possibly another child involved other than the 3 that you've already mentioned?
No, ma'am. The home they lived in it from the time it was built until they died. And we lived in it as our childhood too.
And at family gatherings, there was never a question of somebody that you
All
didn't.
of our relatives live in
Mr. Kennedy,
Alabama and
Mr.
Georgia.
Kennedy,
Yes,
let
ma'am,
me-
sir.
let Ms. Forbes finish the question before you answer because we're taking
Okay,
a break.
Okay.
Go ahead, Ms. Forbes.
Thank you. My question was going to be, at your family gatherings, was there ever any indication that somebody would have shown up that you kids maybe didn't know?
Well, what I was trying to say is both my parents grew up in Alabama and all of our relatives were in Alabama. So there was never any family gatherings. But no, at no point in time ever did we hear of a suggestion of another child.
Okay. Your Honor, I pass the witness.
Mr. Nabhan, any questions of the applicant?
Just 1 or 2, Judge, briefly. Mr. Kennedy,
Yes, sir.
in all the years that you lived with your parents, did you ever know of either your mother or your father having an extended relationship outside of the marriage?
No, sir.
And did you ever hear anything about child support claims against either of them?
No, sir.
Okay, no further questions for this witness, Judge.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Nabhan, go ahead and call one of the witnesses.
We'd like to begin with Ryan Keith Waldman, Judge.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Ryan, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Mr. Waldman, what's your relationship to the decedents?
They were my grandparents.
Okay, and you've heard the testimony presented by Mr. James Robert Kennedy. Are you in agreement with that testimony, sir?
Completely.
All right, I just have a few quick questions. To the best of your knowledge, were either of the decedents ever divorced, or had they ever married anyone other than the 2, other than each other? I apologize.
No, never.
And are the 3 children that are mentioned here today, are those the only children to your grandparents, to the best of your knowledge?
Yes.
Were you close enough to your grandparents that you would have known if there were any other children born to or adopted by them?
Yes, I was.
Did you attend your grandparents' funerals?
Both of them.
And at both of those funerals, did you notice anyone claiming to be a child of your grandparents, of either of them?
Nothing of the sort.
Nobody ever said, oh, this was my father, or this was my mother, or anything like that?
Nothing like that.
Okay. Have you heard of any extended relationships that either of them may have had outside of the marriage?
No.
Any child support claims or any rumors of them that you would have
No.
known?
No, sir.
Any rumors or whispers among friends or family that could possibly lead you to believe there were any children or other heirs beyond the three that are mentioned here today?
No, sir.
Okay, we have no further questions, Your Honor.
Ms. Forbes, any questions of this witness?
I have no questions, Your Honor.
Call the next witness, Mr. Nabhan.
I'd like to call Sean Robert Waldman.
Go ahead.
Sean, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Sean, you've heard the past two testimonies as well. Do you concur with them?
I do.
Okay. What is your relationship to the decedents?
They were my grandparents.
Okay. I'll ask you very similar questions that I just asked Ryan. Are the three children that you've heard here today, are those the only three children to your grandparents?
Yes.
Were you close enough to your grandparents that you would have known if they had children or adopted children other than those three?
I was.
And did you go to the funerals?
I did.
At those funerals, did you notice anyone claiming to be a child or an heir to those decedents?
No.
Did you ever hear of any extended relationships outside of the marriage?
No.
Not for either of them, is that correct?
Correct.
Have you ever heard of any child support claims made against your grandparents?
No.
Any rumors, whispers, or anything at all that could possibly lead you to believe that there may be another child or heir out there?
No.
Your Honor, we have no further questions.
Ms. Forbes.
I do have a question of this witness. Good afternoon, Mr. Waldman. First of all, thank you for assisting us in this hearing. I do want to ask you, there were three children of the marriage of Juanita and Vernon. You agree with that, don't you?
Yes.
Are all three of those children alive at this time?
Yes.
That's all I have, Your Honor.
All right. Well, first of all, I'm sorry for your loss, all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Nabhan, I heard you were going to get orders where you wanted to sign. Do you want to email them to me or email them to me?
I can send them in the next 2 or 3 minutes, Judge.
Send them to C. Hernandez. C as in Charlie, Hernandez at epcounty.com. He's my clerk. He's sitting next to me so I can sign him.
Okay, Judge, if you just give me a few seconds, I can
No
have it
problem.
printed and sent
And
over.
how many hours on both, sir?
A combined 2 hours, Your Honor, one
Okay,
and one.
So I'm gonna give you 250 and 250, Ms. Forbes. That's $250 for the mother and 250 for the father.
Yes, sir.
And the court at this time finds that the heirs of both of your parents, sir, have been identified and will sign the appropriate orders. Ms. Forbes will get you a certified copy of that order so you can do what you need to do with the property, okay?
Sure. Thank you, sir.
All right. So I'll await that, Mr. Nabhan. Thank you. Have a great rest of the day.
Thank you, Judge. Susan, you still haven't signed these.
Oh, okay.
So why don't you send them back to her and then you send them to C. Hernandez at epcounty.com, Ms. Forbes.
That's fine. Just, Albert, if you will just sign it and send it over to me, I'll send it off to the court.
Paula's okay? I can send it to Paula?
Yes, that's fine.
Yes.
Thank
Thank you.
Bye-bye.